Next up, I'd like to invite Marek Pukel, who's the head of business development for Mainlink. He's going to be talking about from AMR to AMI, transforming legacy systems using LoRaWAN. Let's welcome Marek.
Hello. That's a full room. Thank you for joining. I'll try to make the presentation not too boring, so others who skipped would be jealous of you who participated. And I'll be presenting this exact topic. So a little bit about myself. I'm 10 years in IoT business. First, we've been in transport telematics, and with that company, we've been in top 50 fastest growing Central Eastern Europe technology companies 3 years in a row. And now I'm part of Mainlink, part of ICOR group, and we have 400,000 meters on our platform. I mean, mostly water and heating meters. We have more than 30 years experience in metering. Of course, before it was different technologies, but the company is in the business for quite long. We have $500 million USD revenue, and we work in more than 60 countries worldwide. So in the presentation, I would like to bring our worldwide experience and then narrow it down towards North American market. And while doing, I would like to explain how transformation can be gradual, not straight away, because even though the return of investment can be quite clear in some cases, it's still that doesn't happen one day or even in 1 year. So we know that even though you need to train people for new technologies, it takes time. People that are doing some things right now, they need to be trained to do some more smart work, let's say, in the future, not driving by and collecting the data with a pen and paper. And also you wouldn't like to throw away meters that are already installed and maybe just installed 2 years ago. You want to reuse them, and we also support lowering carbon footprint. So as long as you can use the technology, it's better to use it just to adapt to the new trends, let's say. So smart metering with LoRaWAN. Of course, you can still have physical visits when we're speaking about the metering. So you can go with an actual visit to the meter to get the data. You can ask, of course, a resident to send that data to you. It can be with USB, it can be NFC. So plenty of options of the physical visit of smart, of the metering. Then, of course, there are options of wireless wMbus, where you have the option of fixed network, and that would mean quite a lot of antennas, data collectors, and so on. Then there is a walk-by, drive-by method, which in some countries reach some interesting solutions with trash vehicles that have the device on them and just driving by and collecting the data. And in some small towns, even they ask a person who is normally driving a bicycle around the town to collect the data. So there are multiple ways to make it quite cheap. And then, of course, there's a narrowband or cellular, I would say. So that works quite well if the network is established already. But if there is gaps or you have no network at the location, it would be quite difficult to make it because it doesn't happen quite quickly as we could do with LoRaWAN. So LPWAN technologies that help to solve most of those problems mentioned above. I'll go through LoRaWAN later, of course, but yeah, LPWAN would help you to make it more flexible to deploy networks where there is no existent right now. And yeah, smart metering can be in different niches, so it can be water, electricity, which is probably the first one that started to grow. Then it's, of course, gas and heating, BTU meters, and metering, which also follow. Yeah, narrowing down to smart metering in the US and how at least we see that. There are two clear splits of single-family metering where, of course, the utilities do their business, and that means quite a big spread of meters, so there is not many meters in one location, and they also are in kind of difficult to reach locations like pits. I mean, different reach with the network. And there's multifamily, so kind of sub-metering RBCs, so read, build, collect companies working there. And most popular ways of collecting the data is with the pulse output meters, with encoded meters. Of course, there is cellular and there is a LoRaWAN. Of course, there are more, but those are probably the most popular when we speak about data collection, and I will go through each of them a little bit later. So, when we speak about pulse meter, you have a quite old meter with counting pulses, and then you can just generate this information or to collect it with a physical visit. Of course, you can retrofit, and then you could use software algorithms to make more of it, but if you don't use, then you will have just limited features and almost no alerts possible. So that's the first option that started the metering. Then you have the encoded meters, which is kind of standardized already. You have a big part of the market covered with that, and this, when already LoRa can come into the picture, because you can use endpoints, not just with cellular, but also with LoRaWAN. I just put a few examples of our partners who are manufacturing the endpoints, which just take this encoded meter and make it and adapt it to the LoRaWAN infrastructure. So you can have them in parallel of other meters that are also retrofit. And there is wireless wMbus, which maybe not so popular here. It is in Europe, of course, and other parts of the world still. And it's used mostly for submetering, where it's okay to get the data for billing purposes once a month. If it's a wireless wMbus drive-by or walk-by, it can be once per quarter in some cases. So that works quite well for those. But of course, the data is not real time. Not so real time as you could get. And then you would get also delayed non-revenue detection. And then LoRaWAN, it have multiple advantages in this case. It's a flexible deployment methods. So in parallel to the normal CapEx model, where you just purchase the gateways and you make your own private network, you can use the opportunity to use our current alliance infrastructure of the members of the alliance. It would be public, and you could also have a network as a service model. Also, it's cost effective because as more end nodes you deploy, better is the return on each end node and lower the cost. It's of course energy efficient, so because of that, some of the meter can achieve 15-20 years battery life, sending data a few times per day even. And it's open standard, so as multiple already presentations mentioned this, there is no vendor lock-in. You can kind of mix and match the solutions, and you shouldn't be afraid that you would be locked with one option that you maybe decided 5 years ago and now market changed. Ecosystem maturity, so we can see it from the number of participants in this show, and it growing, and the lower carbon footprint. So you don't have all these antennas, converters, receivers, transceivers. You have usually a meter. Worst case, you have a meter and the endpoint, and then you have a gateway which sends data to the network server and then the platform. That's a short video which proves that the network and signal penetration with LoRaWAN is can work for PITs. We did it in Lithuania, and we used, I'll just show it. We used the US meter with a curling gateway. Of course, you can use other gateways as well, like Tectalic, for example. And we used one of the converters. try it in multiple depths and multiple gateway heights. So the results will be shown in a second. Yeah, with plastic lid it was definitely good results, but even with metal lid you'll see it worked well. Just in case you can find it on YouTube. When you just type our company name, you'll find it. So yeah, so we have lots of technologies. Every technology is good for some use case, so why to bother? But I think the biggest challenge comes when you need to see more data, more live data, and all this data in one single view. So our ideal scenario would be that if you have a new deployment of LoRa meters, let's say you decided that you want to go with LoRaWAN meters, but you still have existing infrastructure which you would like to see in one single view. Why not to use a AMR to AMI converter, which can be, as mentioned, from pulse to LoRa, it can be encoded to LoRaWAN, and have them all in one single access point. So you use same gateways, or you have same network server, and then you collect to the one single application. And then it's up to you what you do with that data. You collect it via APIs to do CRM system, you do analytics, you do AI, machine learning with that. So it's up to you. And then, of course, you can inform your end users as well more frequently than once per year when they get a bill, or once per month when they get a bill. That's one of the examples of the calculation that we did with our customers for a customer in California. And that was quite straightforward for them and for us as well, while doing the calculation together with them, that to digitize 1,000 meters, comparing AMR, current data collection, with a AMI, even though we have quite a capex to make this LoRaWAN infrastructure in the first place, we take care of that and we help the customer. And first year, you already get some return and some saving, but all the next years, you just benefit from the infrastructure that you already made. Then you just save on the recurrent fees. So that was quite obvious for them, and of course they went for that. When you already decided, you have multiple options of meters on the market, and if you would go not just for smart, which is sending data remotely, but also you'd like to go with the accurate option, ultrasonic meters, you have quite a few options on the market. So you could choose, now I just put here Axioma, and Deal, and Zener meters. All of them are ultrasonic. Of course, you benefit of the accuracy, but then you also benefit of longevity because there is no moving parts inside. So they just last longer than the meters that have. Also, the battery life with LoRaWAN, you can, as I mentioned, get 16 plus years of battery life. And then you also have multiple options regarding the material. So some companies don't still trust composite, so we can go with a brass emitters. But in some countries, they can be stolen because of brass, and also they're more expensive. But some just countries prefer composite because they're not so attractive to be stolen. And in terms of features, you also get much more if you digitize the AMR type of meters. So besides dashboards, that you get data nearly live, You also have a map view of the network infrastructure. You can react on that. You can get alerts if the network is lost in some cases, because it might happen of different reasons. You of course have leak detection, which can have multiple ways of doing that, of course, as well. So you can get alerts from meter itself, which then it's instantly. You wouldn't benefit from that if you would be using AMR, because then you will just find out when the person arrives back. And then also you can do it two other ways which are software-based. So you can do balancing, which is just comparing the groups of meters and kind of DMA type of solution, or use a software algorithm. So it's not yet AI, but machine learning, I would say. So the software is learning the patterns of the consumption, and then it predicts where it can be potentially leaking. So there are multiple ways. And here's just an example of the balancing where we, with one of our customers, spotted not the leak, which was interesting, but we spotted the backflow, which is a little bit more rare that companies would target that. But yeah, we see here the clear difference after backflow valves were installed. And if you can see that it dropped dramatically, I mean, the difference dropped dramatically. So here was the case of backflow in residential meters versus the introductory meter of the utility. So that's just a good example where balancing can be done not just to spot the leaks, but also for the other use cases. As mentioned before, yeah, when you get the data live, you can also educate your residents, your end clients about their consumption. So they can get data about their consumption. They can learn their patterns, and they can also, you can like even make it playful. So some companies, some utilities are doing comparison between average household, similar to yourself, and in this way you can see how you perform. Well, in the UK, Thames Water went even further, and the water that you save comparing to your previous consumption, you could donate to the company of your choice, not the company, but to the basically either company that you can choose and donate the money, basically. And then you can get alerts as well instantly to the consumer. So if I have a summer house, I can get an alert about the leak there, even though I'm not in the location. That's just one of case studies in our home country, where the company with 300,000 meters had an issue of automating the data collection, because they had a lot of meters across with different terminals to collect the data with antennas. They had still wMbus, not even wireless wMbus there, so they wanted to make it, to automate that. They wanted single solution for both hot water and heating. And then, of course, they wanted to reduce the maintenance and repair costs of all the equipment that are in the ground for quite a long time. And then, of course, they had opportunity to optimize the registering new metering devices, as well as maintaining the operation of the radio part, which be reduced quite significantly if they would go with fixed network and LoRaWAN. So yeah, so now it's in process. It's not done yet because 300,000 meters. They started roughly 1.5 years ago, so I think it's at least same or maybe a few years to go until it can be digitized. But yeah, that's already in progress. And yeah, that's it. I left some space for questions, I guess. Yeah, if the spread of meters, I would say, is very wide, so there's not many meters in one location, then yeah, basically you would need to very carefully calculate if you can expand and get this return of investment based on the meters that you currently have. Because it might be that you just cover a few tens of meters with one gateway, and then of course it gets quite expensive. Definitely, definitely. I think that's the one of the biggest use cases for this AMR to AMI, so getting wireless wMbus to LoRaWAN. Yeah. It's one that we do have ourselves, and of course there are plenty that are around us, so we're just testing them and looking which one is more suitable for this particular use case that we're working, so smart metering. So you mean if you're, let's say, a real estate or sub-metering company and you'd like to put it together. So far we are working to just make it possible to add this data manually. So at least you have a benefit of balancing. But then, yeah, of course, you still have this challenge that it's not, again, it's not live, it's near live, and as long as you put that data. But yeah, that's something that we need to still work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. We appreciate that.